Despite their low price point, entry-level cameras are incredibly important for manufacturers. These are the cameras with which the consumer starts their journey with a brand, and many of those consumers will stay with that brand for a very long time. Because of this, you can get a lot of camera for relatively little money these days. The Canon EOS Rebel T6, badged as the EOS 1300D outside the US, is Canon's latest entry-level proposition, and it's available at a great price for beginners, students, or anyone new to DSLR photography. In fact, it's cheaper than a lot of average compact cameras. We bought the Canon EOS Rebel T6 for testing on Amazon from the official sellers, and if you want to get the same experience that we did, we highly recommend that you buy from the same place. Links will be in the description. If you like this video, remember to click like and subscribe. The Rebel T6 doesn't represent a major upgrade from its predecessor, however, the EOS Rebel T5/EOS 1200D, which itself was hardly a huge overhaul of the EOS Rebel T4/EOS 1100D. It seems Canon has once again played it relatively safe with the spec sheet, which helps to keep the camera affordable for those all-important entry-level customers. The sensor is the same as the EOS Rebel T5 at 18 million pixels, while the processor gets a modest upgrade to the Digic 4 Plus. The Rebel T5s had a standard Digic 4. However, considering that Canon's latest processor is the Digic 7, the 4 Plus is now looking like pretty old technology. The EOS Rebel T6 uses the EFS lens mount, which is compatible with all of Canon's EF range of lenses, so there's a wealth of choice out there to suit all budgets. Several of the other features of the Canon EOS Rebel T6/EOS 1300D are the same as in the Rebel T5. It has the same modest 9-point autofocusing system, with one central cross type, more sensitive point. There's also a 95% coverage optical viewfinder. While it doesn't sound like you're missing much, you can find unwanted elements creeping into the edge of the shot when reviewing images. Native sensitivity remains at ISO 100-6400, expandable up to 12,800, but given the slightly better processor, a modest improvement in low-light performance is promised. That said, the ISO range now looks quite limited compared to much newer rivals. One feature that has seen an upgrade is the screen. The EOS Rebel T6's LCD display is a 3-inch 920K dot unit, whereas the T5 boasted only 460K dots. This upgrade should make viewing images and using the menus a more pleasant experience. The headline new feature for the EOS Rebel T6/EOS 1300D, though, is the inclusion of inbuilt Wi-Fi and NFC connectivity. This enables you to control the camera from a connected device, such as a smartphone or tablet, and you can send images from the camera to your devices to share quickly online. As well as the fully automatic and scene shooting modes you'd expect in a camera aimed at novice photographers, there are also manual and semi-auto aperture priority and shutter priority modes, plus the ability to shoot in RAW format. As with the T5, the Rebel T6 offers full HD 1920x1080 video recording, and you can take manual control of video with 30, 25, and 24 frames per second frame rates available. Not surprisingly for a camera at the price point, there's no 4K shooting. Battery life remains at a respectable 500 shots, which should see you through a typical day's shooting without the need for a recharge. The T6 powers on, confirms focus, and captures an image in about 0.4 seconds, a fine mark for an entry-level SLR. And in bright light, its 9-point autofocus system locks onto subjects and fires in about 0.13 seconds. Not the fastest out there, but not slow either. But in dim conditions, the focus speed slows to 1.4 seconds when using the optical viewfinder, which is terrible for an SLR. Live view performance is dreadful. In bright light, the focus system requires 1.8 seconds to lock and fire, and it slows to 5.2 seconds in dim conditions. You're not going to use the rear LCD to shoot candid shots. I used imatest to check the noise levels in photos. The T6 keeps noise under 1.5% through ISO 3200 when shooting JPEGs at default settings. But there's some aggressive noise reduction going on behind the scenes, curbing image detail at even moderate ISOs. Fine lines are noticeably smudged starting at just ISO 800 and are very blurry at ISO 3200 and the top ISO 6400 sensitivity. ISO 12800 is available as an extended setting, but we don't recommend using it. It's turned off by default and you need to dive into the menu to turn it on. Detail holds up better in RAW format through ISO 1600, where we see quite a bit of grain, but fine lines survive. At ISO 3200, RAW images lose a lot of detail. It's similar to what I'm seeing from an ISO 12800 shot from a modern 24 megapixel image sensor. The bundled 18 to 55mm lens doesn't perform that well either. At 18mm f3.5, it scores just 1,477 lines per picture height on a center-weighted sharpness test, well shy of the 1,800 lines we want to see at a minimum. It hits 1,803 lines at f5.6, but much of the frame, including the mid-parts and edges, lag behind that average. You'll need to stop down all the way to f8 to get a shot that's crisp through most of the frame, 1,987 lines on average, and even then the edges are blurred. There's also significant barrel distortion, about 3.6% at the 18mm setting, which gives images a modest fisheye look, especially when focusing close. There's no setting for in-camera distortion correction. I realized that performance is better at 35mm. The average sharpness score is 2,150 lines at the brightest f4.5 f-stop, and while edges lag behind the center in fidelity, they are pretty solid at close to 1,900 lines. Stopping down improves quality a bit, 2,240 lines at f5.6, and a peak 2,291 lines at f8. Shots at f11 are also sharp, but you should skip shooting at f16 and f22 as they harm image quality. Distortion isn't an issue at 35mm. Considering that the T5 wasn't exactly revolutionary, we'd been hoping for perhaps a little more from Canon specs-wise with the Rebel T6. As it is, the camera keeps many of its predecessors' tried and tested features, but offers nothing particularly new or exciting. Although this does mean Canon can offer the EOS Rebel T6 EOS 1300D at a price that should be attractive to the prospective purchasers it wants to hook. We bought the Canon EOS Rebel T6 for testing on Amazon from the official sellers, and if you want to get the same experience that we did, we highly recommend that you buy from the same place. Links will be in the description. If you like this video, remember to click like and subscribe.